Hey, so I'm actually really lazy, and I filmed this about 3 weeks ago. Um, Sorry about not uploading any anime reviews, but anyway, you probably want to go watch the video now. So here. So with my anime reviews so far, I've been going pretty well. At the end of the Devilman Crybaby review, or about 10 minutes after I just finished the series, I was kind of in the state of why does she have to die? And when I was trying to work out how to upload the Death Note movie review, and I finally got that sorted out, I was kind of in a little bit of a state of but I think it's regardless to say that this time I'm probably not going to fuck it up, only making this recording about 3 hours before my deadline. Shit. And basically in that deadline I have to record this video, which is probably going to be about 5-6 minutes. Then I have to edit the video, which is probably going to be about an hour. And then I have to have about 1.5 hours to work out how the fuck I'm going to get this onto how the fuck IGTV works. Sorry, my bad. And, but there regardless to say, I'm probably going to manage, because right now I'm going to be here for a while, because I'm talking about what is probably arguably my favourite anime series and manga series of all time so far, Jojo's. So, let's see here. Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, it's a pretty simple story. It is, let's just state out some ground facts. So, Jojo's is the 12th best-selling manga of all time, selling about 112 units in the series worldwide. That's pretty good, And it has 8 parts. Each part takes about a couple hours to read, I'm pretty sure, except for the 7th and 8th part, they take like probably 5 to 10 hours to read. Very long. The anime of the 5th part, or Vento Oreo, which I really enjoyed, that finished this year, and yeah, I think it's just safe to say how I should talk about this series. So the author of this series is called Hirohiko Araki. This guy, he made this very pretty good series that was in this manga series called Shonen Jump. And in Shonen Jump, basically what they did is that they're kind of like the biggest manga things ever. So they're like kind of the companies that own One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, etc., yada yada yada. Also Death Note, which is also another one of my favorites. Anyway, so it started off as a Shonen thing. And it was a really big success. It had 7 novels. I currently have the physical form of the 3 remastered novels. So all of the 7 novels, they're just neatly made into these ones over here. Yes, in this one here, the character is naked. The author literally says at the very end of the book, if I just get this up, and I quote, okay, so the question is, why is Dio naked? And I quote from Hirohiko Araki. He wanted to show off his beautiful body. If I try, I can draw these characters to look the way they did, but their living, breathing styles, they do end up looking completely different people when drawn in modern style. So basically, the reason why Dio is showing off his naked body in the entrance here is because canonically he thinks he is so narcissistic that he literally wants to show everyone how dripped he is. Anyway, apart from talking about the general facts, we have 3 novels right here. We have the first one, the second one, and obviously the third one. And it's already been 3 minutes, I see, and I haven't even gone on to talking about the story yet. Okay, so Jojo's Bizarre Adventure starts off with this story about this very tragic thing. Basically, there's this person called George Joestar, not Jojo, and his wife, Mary Joestar. Basically, they're in a cartridge thing, they're coming back from a long-seas holiday, but they tragically die. Now, there's people called the Brandos, Dario Brando and his wife. Basically, they kind of like try and loot the corpses of this, and George's wife dies, but the baby is safe. Sorry. And, basically, yeah, so George and the baby were fine, but the wife had died. And Dario thinks he's looting for dead corpse, but George, he thinks that they're actually really nice people and they were like saving his life and stuff. So then we fast forward 12 years later, and we meet George's son, or the baby, Jonathan Jojo, the first Jojo. Now, Jonathan, he in the story, he is what is known, he is basically the textbook definition of a mad lad. You see, he stands up for women, you know, he's a nice guy, he defeats evil, you know, he's a nice guy and stuff. But then, in this 12 years, Dario Brando, he is dying. And it turns out that he had this son called Dio. Now, we later find out that, that Dario is a bit of a psychopath. Basically, when his wife died, he was really like money depending, and he was like really bad addicted to alcohol. Like he sells his Dio's mother's clothes. So his wife's clothes, he sold them so he could buy more booze. And when he was dying, he didn't ask Dio to buy medicine. He asked him to spend the last remaining money on booze. And Dio, he obviously, you know, when his dad eventually died, he was sent to the Joestar's mansion because, you know, the Dario had saved the father. And you may think that this is a long story, but I'm not even halfway through the first episode, and there are like probably about 250 of these. Holy shit, I have a long way to go. Oh fuck, okay. Basically, to sum it up, Dio comes over, he's being a dick, he beats the shit out of Jonathan's dog, but Jonathan tries to say, hey, what the fuck are you doing there, bud? But then Jonathan's father thinks that that Jojo is being a bit of a he's being a bad boy, so he grounds him. Dio's basically just kind of better than him. I guess you could say, like, he kind of acts like he's better than him, you know, like he eats all posh, you know, he does all of that weird, you know, posh stuff. And, yeah, basically, he kind of acts like well, to put it simply, a dick. And, it actually gets to the point where, where Jonathan basically loses all of his friends, but he realizes that there was this girl that, he saved previously called, Amelia. Oh, fuck. God damn, now I'm getting confused with Freezer. Not Amelia, Erina. And basically, this kind of becomes, Jonathan's friend, and, they didn't have, like, a kiss or anything, because, you know, at that time of age, they only saw each other as friends, right? And, basically, one time when Erina was going home, Dio, he did the most disgusting thing imaginable. You may have thought that burning alive Jonathan's dog is a bad thing, okay? You may think that basically losing all of Jonathan's friends and basically completely isolating him is a bad thing, but you know what the worst thing is? Shit. Wait, no, that isn't it. Wait, no, that isn't it. Yep, here it is. Wait, no, it's not there. Here we are! The most disgusting thing ever! He stole the first kiss of Jonathan's girlfriend. Here we are! And also it created one of the simultaneously best memes ever. You see, the first person you were kissed wasn't Jojo. It was I, Dio! Oh god, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah, basically he created the kind of Dio meme that it kind of circulates the internet a lot. And yeah, anyway, once that happened, kind of got pissed. Jonathan, you know, kind of beat the shit out of Dio, got grounded. Then we fast forward about 6 years later, so when they're both 18, and it looks like they're kind of getting along as friends. But then we find out that Dio's been poisoning Jonathan's father so that he can get the family fortune. And Jonathan obviously seeing this as a not good thing. He basically calls out Dio for it, and basically we find out Jonathan, he basically wanted to become this architect, right? And when he wanted to become this architect, he pretty much fuck, how can I explain this? What he wanted to do is he was studying this stone mask. And this stone mask, basically what it did is that he discovered that spikes come out of the stone mask once blood gets onto the mask. And basically, Dio, what his idea was is that he was going to try and kill Jonathan with it. But of course, because Dio's a pretty smart guy, he tested it out on someone else first. But he found out that what it actually does is that the mask, if you place it on your head and you get blood on it, the spikes go into here, and you become a vampire, because obviously. So basically, Dio uses this, he becomes a vampire, and he tries to kill Jonathan. Basically, then, we also, just before this, when Jonathan, he's trying to find the antidote to the poison that that Dio is giving his father, he meets Speedwagon. And Speedwagon, basically, he's like the kind of main supporting character for the first 2 parts of Jojo. He kind of like helps out the Joestars. He in the second part, he creates this thing called the Speedwagon Foundation, which basically just helps out all of the Joestars in the following parts. He's a pretty nice guy. He originally started off as a crime gangster, but eventually he became good and he joined the Jonathan's side. And yeah. And this, and what I just said, completely sums up the first novel. I'm not even on to the second one, where we learn about William A. Zappelli, which I will talk about now. In this part of the Jojo, basically what happens is that on his way, when Jonathan is recovering from Dio's vampire attack that he did just beforehand, he meets this person on the way called William A. Zappelli. And basically, this person is an Italian person. He looks really young, but I think in reality he's like 50 or something. And basically, we find out that what he's been doing is that he's been using this mythical ability called Hamon. Now, Hamon is kind of like this mythical ability. Basically, what you can do is that if you do this like really weird breathing thing, and you breathe right, you basically like kind of gain superpowers, and you can like you basically get super strength, and you can like punch harder. You can like you can extend your limbs out further, and basically he kind of roughly teaches Jonathan the basics of that. And then they're trying to find Dio because Dio, what he wants to do is that he wants to take over the world because now he's a vampire by doing a bunch of like zombie stuff and like basically making everyone zombies because he can do that. And basically William wants to stop him, and he found out that what the Hamon can do is that it can stop the people. He can stop the vampires with it because the vampires are immune to sunlight, and Hamon comes from like sun energy and stuff. And in this kind of like arc of Jojo, which is about episode 4 of 9 of the first part, and basically we meet William. He teaches us about Hamon. We get to verse Jack the Ripper, who is now a vampire, which is pretty cool. And yeah, and then in episode 5 we meet these 2 people. They're called the Dark Knight Blue Ford and the other one, and I think it's the Dark Knight Blue Ford and Tartarus. And basically what happens is that we learn about their story. Basically there's like this really important backstory you don't really need to know about. Basically like Queen Elizabeth basically like did this thing with like Queen Mary, and they like tricked the people, and like these people were like Queen Mary's and stuff, like where they were doing and yeah, basically they killed Blueford, but Jonathan, because he's a nice guy, basically he still sees he doesn't see them as like bad zombies that need to be killed. He sees them as people that have been like tragically attacked by deer. And then after that we verse Tartaros, is like this really big like tall guy, and yeah, and we find out that basically he like leads into this area which used to be done for like weird battles and stuff. And then we learn a little bit about Will's story, basically when he was becoming a Hubbard teacher, basically what the person who was like teaching him Hubbard and stuff, he basically said, okay, I'll teach you the final bit of Hubbard, but what's going to happen in exchange is that your fates can't be changed, and at this very specific point in time, you're going to die. And basically that happened, and we also learned that the reason why Will wanted to pursue the Stone Mask was that the Stone Mask had basically one of Will's father basically thought it was really cool idea if he put on the Stone Mask, and he basically killed all of the crew members except for Will. And then the sunlight got to him, and basically he wanted to like learn more about how to use that Harmon power and shit. And anyway, once that was done, he wanted to go, and we find out that at that very specific point of time, that was actually like the time of episode 7, I think. Yeah, it was definitely episode 7. And basically, you know, they verse the guy. Will dies, but then Will does this weird thing where he like transfers over his power to Jonathan. The thing about Jojo's is that there are a lot of plot holes, and you just kind of gotta go. It's not really about questioning. It's not really about You can't really take this as, why the hell does this happen? You kind of got to take it as, okay. And then you just continue onwards. And yeah, basically this was happening, and Will died. This thing happened, like Will kind of transferred over his power to Jonathan, and you know, then there's the final fight with Dio. The final fight with Dio. This is Dio, this is Jonathan right now. Okay, let's see here. So basically, in the manga, the page that I'm up right now, this is kind of like the fight, you know, going on with Jonathan trying to kill the bad guy. And anyway, I'll talk about this. So basically what happens is that they find out there's a bunch of other stuff, like there's his sister's BTK guy, there's this guy, doesn't really matter. There's a bunch of stuff that just kind of goes, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in these 9 episodes that it's just not possible to talk about in a short enough time. But basically all you need to know is that all of this stuff happens. Jonathan meets this, the teacher of Hubbard, this guy who basically dies immediately, and this person who becomes a bad guy in season 2. And anyway, basically they fight Dio, and they basically have this fight where Jonathan swings a sword at him, but Dio freezes it because he has vampiric ice powers. He can do this weird thing where he like freezes his, where he like gets rid of all of Vampir's blood, and then all of that blood turns ice, and then the ice freezes the sword. But then we find out that the sword was on fire, that Dio breaks the sword, then Jonathan punches him, he freezes the heart, but it's actually revealed that his hand is fire, so it punches Dio, and then Dio just says, fuck this, uses his, and literally just fucking zaps him with like fucking lasers coming out of his eyes for no reason. And basically it kind of looks like he's dead, like his head is like disembodied from his body, and you know, it's kind of like, oh yay, he's dead now, yay, let's go. But spoiler alert, he's not actually dead. And anyway, basically what he wants to do is that we find out that basically Dio is living orders ahead, and what he wants to do is that he wants to wait until Jonathan's alone so he can take his body. And also, this shows up at the time where Dio attacks is actually on Jonathan's honeymoon with that Aaron girl I was talking about earlier. Jesus Christ, it's going to be a pain in the ass to edit. I've already gone for like 20 minutes. Anyway, basically, summed up, Dio, basically Dio tries to attempt to take Jonathan's body. He supposedly fails, and yeah. Basically, it looks like Jonathan basically sacrificed his life, on this ship that was like burning in the middle of the sea, where basically he held Dio's head and just made sure that he was doing. Erina escaped in like this little passage when she was pregnant, and she also had this baby. Those are 2 very big plot points that come on, and the part ends. I just talked about that for 20 minutes an hour, and I covered about 9 episodes. Oh my fucking god, what the hell am I doing? Okay, well, to sum it up. The first part of Jojo's probably the weakest. I mean, to put in perspective, it probably most likely would be the weakest. It was Hirohiko Araki's first time doing Jojo season, I guess you could say. He experimented with a lot of different things. It was a very short series where most of the series that are there, for example, Stardust Crusaders, which is usually the part that everyone knows Jojo for. It's the one where it's like, oh, Canada. And the and all of that shit. Yeah, but basically, yeah, that's kind of the part that's just up there in my bookshelf. But yeah, this part, it was alright. It was probably the weakest JoJo part. I'd probably give it about a 7. It's not a bad part, but it's not like it's a bit hard to explain. Basically, it's not a bad part. It's just that it's not as good as the other parts. That's what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, that was basically part 1. I'll see you when I do part 2 tomorrow.